Ich heiße Erich Maria Fink.
My name is Erich Maria Fink. I'm a priest from Bavaria's Augsburg diocese in southern Germany.
Ich kam hierher nach Russland vor 7 Jahren.
I came to Russia 7 years ago.
Ist mein Kind.
Russia was my childhood dream.
Wo habe ich mir schon gedacht? Habe ich 3 Pfarreien in Deutschland zurück?
One day I thought to myself, I've left 3 parishes behind. Why am I here?
Hat das Ganze
What
eigentlich
sense?
für einen Sinn? Das waren schon manchmal tiefgehende
There were
Fragen.
times when these were very serious questions, and if I had not felt God's hand, I would have sooner or later gone back home.
Wieder nach Hause gegangen.
When I arrived in Moscow in 1991, there were only 2 churches in the region, 4 minor chapels, 7, perhaps 8 priests, of which 2 were elderly in their 80s, which effectively meant there were none. That's why I turned to many episcopates around the world, with a plea for them to send me priests. And so Father Fink arrived, saying that he would like to work in Russia. I answered, priests in Perm are stretched, and there is Berezniki. You're a German, there are Germans there. He immediately agreed. He hadn't the faintest idea where Berezniki was. I showed him on the map, and that is how the parish began. Clearly, God had sent him.
Der Bischof sagte zu mir, ja, möchte mir die Verantwortung.
The bishop told me that he wanted to make me responsible for the whole region north of Perm, an area about 500 kilometers in diameter. If one looks on a map, we lie east of Perm, which makes us the easternmost Catholic parish in Europe.
Europas. Berezniki selber hat etwa 200.000 Einwohner.
Berezniki on its own has 200,000 inhabitants, whilst the town is only 75 years old. That means that it was built in socialist times, a communist, atheist creation with no signs of religious practice, except for one Orthodox church, which was once a small village church.
Die Dorfkirche ist ganz am Rand. Mich hat dieser Priester,
Father Andrew, a priest from Perm, brought me here so that I could acquaint myself with the German babushkas. He introduced me and immediately asked, "What will he do with this priest?" And before anybody could answer, Aunt Lena began singing a hymn that from that moment forward is sung at every Holy Mass. It was a Marian hymn, Immaculate Virgin. They sang the hymn with such a deep internal conviction and so calmly that I nearly began to weep. It was during that singing that I told myself, yes, from now on this is where I will spend my life.
wo ich mein späteres Leben verbringen werde.
I think that I saw Father Fink for the first time on a public transport bus. That was a very informal meeting. Why? You board a bus and are suddenly confronted by a man in a black cloth, smiling to all and sundry. Shock. Smiling in Russia, and all the more so on the streets of Berezniki, is unheard of, though we are working on it. Nevertheless, somebody on public transport, in a rush hour squeeze, smiling, talking with children, handing out small toys and sweets, etc. That's when I saw him for the first time.
Meine Anlaufstelle war die Wohnung von der Tante Lena.
Aunt Lena's apartment was my first lodging. During the first year, we used to celebrate Holy Mass in her guest room with the babushkas every day.
Man muss wissen, dass noch Ende der 80er Jahre, als die Perestroika...
One should appreciate that towards the end of the 1980s, when perestroika had already begun, In other words, shortly before the fall of the Iron Curtain, 25,000 people in our town described themselves as German. Many have left, but at least 5,000 still live in Berezniki. Many lived in forced labor camps, following deportations, surviving in barracks to begin with, and only later moved into apartments to live in a more or less civilized manner. Their fate was terrible to begin with.
Am Anfang war das Schicksal eher schrecklich.
Maria mit dem Kindeli, uns alle deinen Segen gib. Ja, okay. Eugenia, erzählen Sie ein bisschen zuerst mal, woher Sie kommen.
Eugenia, tell us first where you come from, how hard your life was, and how you managed to stand by your faith.
Conditions were very difficult. We had to work very hard for very little to eat, and the frost was severe. But we did not abandon our faith. I prayed every day, sang all these hymns. I tried very hard. That's how it was. We lived under extremely hard conditions, but now it's all over. Our God has saved us. I am 93 years old, but my heart still yearns to pray. I can't wait for morning mass. When I come here, it's still cold. Sometimes even the doors are still closed. I don't have much strength as before, but life goes on.
Eugenia, are you happy with our church?
Happy? I am drawn to the church from early morning to come and pray here, whilst partaking in the Holy Mass and receiving Holy Communion strengthens me. Very much so.
Did you ever believe that we would build a church here?
No, I didn't even think about it. God sent us a priest. We love our priest. He built us this church. May God give you health and fortune for 200 years.
This church is above all God's doing.
Yes, that's very important.
Would anybody like to add anything? Bernadetta?
What can I say?
Bernadetta, when I came to visit you and see whether I was to become the local parish priest, Bernadetta said, "Of course, grab him." And that is why I stayed with you. Bernadetta, tell us how it was.
One day, Bishop Thaddeus came here to visit the German community. That was when Aunt Lena said that if he didn't send us a priest for good, the Catholic faith would disappear and there would be no one to pray. So we all asked him, all of us grannies, including myself, and he answered, "I'll think about it." And soon after he sent us Fr Erich. With God's help, such a blessing befell us and such joy. We are all very happy and grateful. Fr Erich already speaks better Russian than anybody, even better than us. He knows the living language. He has managed to learn it so well that he never misses a word. We are the happiest people in the whole Perm district. We have such a wonderful priest.
Millionen von Menschen sehen, dass ich von meiner Anastasia auch geschenkt bekommen habe.
Ich will, dass das gesund soll bleiben, soll nicht krank sein.
Okay, jetzt